Hi everyone. So today I'm going to be finishing a drawing of Ileana, photographed by Aneev Rao, that I started a few weeks ago. I was going for something a bit more conceptual with this piece, and I'm naming it Noli Me Tangere, as a reference to Gospel John 20:17. I thought today I would talk about whether or not artists are born talented. This is something that I hear pretty often, that being able to create incredible artwork is some God-given trait that you have to be born with. But is this actually true? In order to answer this, maybe we first need to realize what we are actually born with. When we're born, the majority of us have a set of motor, social, and cognitive skills that we come out with. This, along with our genetic mishmash that our parents have passed down to us, is all that we come into this world with. From these skills and our experiences, we learn to develop further and expand our capabilities. This being said, certain characteristics that we're born with deem us better fit for different things. For example, those born with more melanin in their skin are better fit to survive in prolonged heat or exposure to the ultraviolet rays of the sun. Or maybe consider those born into a very tall or slender family. Those born with this sort of genetic makeup may be better suitable for careers in modeling or sports, since that's the favorable characteristic in those industries. So what physical characteristics does the field of art making prefer? Essentially, there isn't one. Any person is capable of creating. Anyone can undergo the process of refining their motor skills to master a craft. As with any field of work, those who are fully able have the advantage, but this isn't a limiting factor. There are incredibly inspiring individuals who are able to create beyond the limits of their disabilities. Regardless of physically being able to make art, being artistically inclined is not a trait that is inherited from birth. Though the act of making art does take a certain personality and ability, this isn't something that's in our DNA. The thought process required, however, is a different story. There's definitely a subset of the population who's more inclined towards creative thinking. Keep in mind that these differences in cognitive ability that we see across the population is not because of a dominance of one half of the brain. We've all heard of the segregation between left-brained and right-brained people. They say that left-brained people are more logical, and right-brained people are more creative. But this division or overpowering of one hemisphere of the brain is actually a myth. What's really happening here is that creative people, from those who improvise in music, to writers of spontaneous poetry, to impulsive sculptors or painters, all have brains that are wired slightly differently. When they approach a question or a task, the neural networks that their brain engage while thinking activate different parts of the brain than those of a non-creative. This allows them to create results and responses that are really out of the box. So although they aren't born with talent or skill, artists are definitely born more capable. What does this really mean? Essentially, anyone can learn to draw or paint. It's a skill that can be picked up, just in the same way that babies learn to crawl and walk, or toddlers learn to communicate and write. But the act of making a work of art that is really creative and stimulating is something that comes easier to only a select few in the population. In general, you can just tell if you are a creative thinker or not based on your interests and the way that you approach different issues. Maybe even consider subjects in school that you gravitated towards as an indicator. A lot of people tend to suppress their creativity as they get older. Children are always endless fountains of creativity, but those who retain that ability to think freely are the gems here. But being able to think this way isn't enough to produce a masterpiece. Technical skill is required too. Learning how to hold your pencil, how to draw basic shapes, how to show perspective, value, and depth, how to draw a portrait. These are all skills that can be learned with a lot of time and practice. No one picks up a pencil for the first time and creates a hyper-realistic portrait. You learn the tricks of the trade by repetitive exercise and by making mistakes. When you have a solid foundation of the fundamentals of art, like likeness, color theory, and composition, you have a repertoire big enough to create any work you would like. Granted, if you don't have the passion to create, then learning this will be quite the tedious and boring task. If you don't love it, why do it? Anyways, whether they use them in practice or not, most artists do have this basic foundation under their belts. When natural creativity is aligned with the right amount of patience and passion, artists are really able to create incredible work. While I don't think that artists are born talented, people who are born with the ability to think more creatively, who also have the patience and passion to create, make the most inspiring and beautiful art. At the same time, if you have a real dedication to the craft of making art, you can still produce beautiful results.